Welcome to Mastering the Art of Success. I'm your host, Debbie DiMaggio. This is just episode 2 of the new title, From Mastering the Art of Real Estate to Mastering the Art of Success. We are here today with a colleague of mine, Brian Dougherty. Brian is coming to us from Boston, and we met at the Corcoran conference in Scottsdale, Arizona a couple months back. And welcome, Brian. So excited to have you here.
Thanks, Debbie. I'm excited to join you. Thanks for having me.
I'm very excited. And thanks to Instagram, we can kind of get to know each other a little bit.
Yeah,
And so it was so fun, following you and just getting to know a little bit more. So I'm going to introduce you by your wonderful bio. I was going to take something out and I said, no, I'm just going to read the whole thing.
Oh, take it out. No,
no. There's too much.
Take it out.
So let's properly introduce Brian. Brian Dougherty is the partner and CEO of Corcoran Property Advisors, based out of the company's flagship office on Boston's Newbury Street. Responsible for more than $550 million of sales, he has been profiled in Boston Magazine for the past 5 years as the top producing agents in the region and is often featured in the Wall Street Journal, the Boston Globe, Forbes, and other distinguished publications. In 2018, 21, 22, and again in 2024, Brian represented some of the largest residential transactions in all of Massachusetts. Prior to his affiliation with Corcoran, Brian was a managing director at Compass, where alongside his partner Nick, he led the private brokerage team to provide bespoke real estate services for accomplished individuals and families throughout Greater Boston. Brian was also a managing partner at Robert Paul Properties from 2014 until 2019, when he sold his interest in the business. He previously held a number of senior management and business development roles for various privately held and publicly traded companies. From 2005 to 2007, Brian was a real estate sales advisor with DPS Development Company, working on the marketing and sales of luxury real estate developments in Turks and Caicos and Jackson Hole, Wyoming. Brian served for several years on the advisory board for a top agent network, which is called TAN, which is a private membership of the top 10% producing agents in the state. He also served as a member of the finance committee for Governor Charlie Baker. Brian and his husband Nick live in Cohasset with their son Henry after having lived in Boston's Back Bay and South End neighborhoods for many years. Passionate about design and preservation, Brian and Nick have renovated and redeveloped several significant properties throughout the years, including a boutique inn on Cape Cod. I love that. I have to read the bio because I learned so much. It's so great. And there was nothing I could cut out because it's just who you are and everything you've done.
And that's the end of the show, right? And
yeah, exactly.
Right? It's like, wow, sorry.
It's awesome. I mean, gosh.
Yeah, and it does need an update because I've sold more real estate than that. And I have another son who deserves credit there. Yeah,
how old?
Baby Sam, who's now 9 months old. So we've got a 7-year-old and a 9-month-old, and So
I was just so envious watching you with Henry. I was like, I remember those days. I have now a 29 and 31-year-old, and I just loved watching you play with your family. It was just so endearing.
We're having a good time. Well, yeah.
Congrats. It's the best time. It's truly amazing.
Thank you.
So congrats. That's incredible. So I always like to start from the beginning. Who is Brian? How did he get there? Did you know when you were younger what you wanted to do, that you would do all of these things, or did you have a different career in mind? Tell us where you grew up and how you got there.
All right. Don't hold this against me, Debbie, but I grew up in New Jersey. All right. But it was a nice town in New Jersey. It was nice in northern New Jersey, just outside of New York, where my dad commuted in every day, worked on Wall Street. And my mom grew up in the town. And so as a result, my grandmother was just a mile down the street. And so we were very close with my grandmother, Taffy, who worked in real estate. But before I got the real estate bug, I had an interest. I wanted to be a limo driver. And I'm 44. So this was like, remember big white limos and the TV antenna on the back. And New York City, you'd go through Times Square and you'd stick your head out of the whole thing. So, but I remember at a holiday dinner, I was telling my grandmother this, and she was just awesome, but very elegant. And she said, "Oh no, darling, you want to have a limo driver?" Because I said I want to be a limo driver. And so, so that's actually one of my summer jobs. I was a chauffeur for a really nice hotel. But I think back on that because she was trying to guide me even then.
Right.
So then, when I told her I used to drive down, she managed this office, and it was then it was all women. It was just all
Yeah.
women. There wasn't a single guy in the ranks, and so I would ride my bike there after school and sneak in the back door of the office and talk with the ladies in the Xerox room. And
Zero.
I have these memories and talking. So what do you think, Cheryl? Do you think Mrs. McGillicuddy is going to keep the house now that Mr. McGillicuddy died, or what? I think that'll sell real quick, And so I was just as a kid, so I
Oh my
always had
God.
an interest in it. And but and then I found out you could get a license at 18, but I had a lot of counselors and people who just said, go get some experience and perspective and education and all the rest of this. And then if you're still interested down the road, circle back to it. And so I buried that. I tucked that away. And then during those other years, I developed an interest in hotels and hospitality, which is kind of at the core of how we run our business today, very hospitality focused.
Mm.
But so I wanted to be a hotel general manager and be the one to live in the hotel. And
Absolutely.
yeah, I just thought that I probably saw one too many movies, but I thought, wouldn't that be great? When in reality, I've had a lot of full circle moments in my years because I got a job in the hotel business, and I was one of the youngest managers for Hilton Hotels, and it was one of their luxury properties like the Waldorf. And I remember going to a holiday party with the general manager who had been working for Hilton for like 40 years. And this was like a choice, his like last post, and I
Right.
went to a holiday party at his house, and this is going to make me sound awful and really judgy, but I got there and I was like, this is it. Like it's a notoriously poor paying
Right.
industry, right?
It seems
And
glamorous. It totally seems glamorous by the
yeah,
the,
and it
the
was. I
TV
mean,
show Hotel.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and I loved it, by the way. Like, this is some of my favorite jobs
Sure.
and time in the business. But this was somebody who was at the pinnacle of his career, who had worked his way up through 40
Mm.
something years. And I just thought, I mean, totally judging a book by is cover. He could have
No,
had
I know what you mean.
gazillions
Yeah.
in stock, but I just said, there's got to be something more. And so it wasn't until I was at a funeral for a family friend, and a friend of my parents was there. We were in the back row. I didn't even know the person who had passed, but I was just there to show respect and pick up some business. And there I was in the back row, and I was talking to a guy who had worked on Wall Street with my dad, and super nice guy. And I said, "What are you doing? I thought you were retired." And he said, "Well, I was." But then these guys put together this development project and pulled me out of retirement, and we're running this private resort community where we're selling home site and these luxury amenities. And I was
Nice.
like, wow. So in the back of the funeral, I was like, give me your card. And
Yeah.
so we did this little thing and then thought nothing of it. I just thought that sounds like a dream. And in
Right.
reality, it was because it married hotels, hospitality,
Mhm.
resorts, service
Absolutely.
with a real estate piece. And so he called me like 6 months later, and he said, it doesn't pay much, and it's just an opportunity to come in as a sales assistant for the guys in the New York office, who at the time were selling a project in the Turks and Caicos. And I was there. I was all in. And so then I was off and running. That's the short of
And
it. That's good.
did you move, so when you start, so let's jump into the
Yeah.
development aspect. Did you move to Turks and then later to Jackson Hole to run these or to assist at these developments?
So yeah, no, definitely assisting. I didn't move to the Turks and Caicos. I thought I was going to, and I was like in my prime. I was going to the gym, and I'm moving to the islands, right? And then I was working out of the New York office. This was in the early 2000s when, I don't want to say funny money, but there was, hedge
Yes,
funds were just,
right.
there's money flowing. And a lot of these guys would buy these property in the Turks and Caicos sight unseen, through all the marketing
Yes,
materials and
right.
everything else. But they would buy a home site there knowing that they had all these great amenities. And so I was there. On occasion, I would fly with a prospect down to the Turks,
Well,
and
that's
then
fun.
do the whole tour. So it was great. And that's where I thought life was taking me, to the Caribbean. But the head of the company called up one day and he said, "Hey, Brad." And I said, "Oh, no, sir, it's Brian." He said, "Yeah, yeah, whatever. We're going to move you out of New York. We've got a new project." And I said, "Oh, I know, the Turks and Caicos." And he said, "No, no, no, Wyoming." And I was like, "Wyoming? Oh,
You
no
just went,
way." Totally. I was like, Wyoming, because I knew very little about Wyoming, cowboys and the like, but I didn't think, that was
right.
going to be great. And as a matter of fact, it's funny. I just was looking at my calendar this morning. It was 20 years ago today that I moved down there.
Wow.
Today, and I moved out to
Wow.
Jackson Hole, and with like a week's notice, and it was just going to be for like 3 months to kind of. I've always been
Right.
really interested in processes, and
Hmm.
data and
Yes.
analytics, realizing that you can analyze data and that helps inform some business decisions that you should make. So I had that approach to this development business, and the leads and where we should be marketing and all the rest of this. And so I think that they were trying to leverage some of that. And instead of 3 months, I ended up being out there for, I think, almost 18. So, and it was
Wow.
it
And
was
where
it was
was
amazing.
we were just there skiing in March, and I'm
Oh,
sure
really?
since you were there, obviously it's grown. So it's, I mean, I don't think these days, I mean, people own multi-million dollar homes there now, but I think these are third and fourth homes. It's just so many
Right.
empty, big, beautiful homes, I think, for the tax advantage. I learned a lot when I was there. But
Yeah, that's
where
right.
was your development? Was it
It was along the Snake River,
okay?
which runs all through several states, but it was along the Snake River. It was south of town,
Okay.
the village where they have the elk, the antler arches, and everything else. The town square, probably
Yep.
a good 25 minutes, and
Okay.
that was a challenge, but there was
Right.
a beautiful Tom Weiskopf golf course and a clubhouse, and it was just physically beautiful land. And but if you wanted to be skiing, it was 25 plus, another 20
Right.
minutes. And so, it wasn't without its limitations, but we worked through them. And it was a great
So
experience. It was really formative.
it sounds, yeah. Well, you learned so much from the ground up. No,
Yeah,
literally. So, did you have your license at this time?
I did. Yeah. I
Yeah,
had already
and
been
so,
licensed in New York, and we would basically tee up these opportunities for the team in the Turks and Caicos, and then they would, hopefully close them or whatever. And so they were licensed there. And then I got licensed in Wyoming,
so
and
we're gonna
Idaho.
I want to jump into AI in a minute because my mind, the last 2 days, I've been down a rabbit hole. And
Oh, really?
this
Yeah.
morning, I was on a mastermind with agents throughout different companies throughout the country that I'm on, and
Right.
the AI tools that were coming my way were just my head was spinning. But before we get into
Wow.
that, you just said that you were analyzing and doing things to figure out how to bring the people. I mean, you had to bring people from other areas to Wyoming to this specific place.
Right.
So there was no AI at the time. How, and I don't
Right.
even know if the internet was, or maybe the internet was around, but how did you do that? What were you doing to bring people to this area?
So a lot of direct mail, and so
Okay.
there was a real, excuse me, direct mail, but also print advertising, and so there was a real significant financial commitment to marketing in relevant audiences, and that's probably when I first learned the significance, the importance of relevance as it relates to kind of business development and building your own business. You have to be relevant to an audience. And so, you wouldn't take out ads in, random places that weren't
Right.
the right demographics. And so, a lot of Wall Street Journal and Garden Gun and a
Gardening
lot of,
gun.
because they were these sporting, but high end. It was these
Yes.
sporting club communities. So there was an
Right.
equestrian center. You could go hiking. You can go fly fishing, and so there's
Right.
Ducks Unlimited. There were all these just real niche channels
Right.
that, and some were better than others. I remember at the time, actually, there was a magazine called Trader Monthly, and it was. It was published by a former Wall Street trader, and this is just these guys who are making millions and millions of dollars in the early 2000s, and it was just it was celebrating the lifestyle and the glitz and glam and funny money, and what do you do with it? Oh, and you turn the page and then you say,
It's
I want to live the
yeah,
sporting life. And so, yeah, it was all about it. It's no different to this day. It's like
right.
bringing
So
buyers and sellers to you so that you can do what you do.
right. So let's go there. Let's start there. How do you, so I was speaking to one of the gals on my, on the DiMaggio Beta group, and I said, what kind of questions do you have? I speak with agents all the time, and I just
Yeah.
love hearing their stories. And so how do you go about, I mean, you've been doing this for a while now. What would you give advice to a young agent, or even an agent who's seasoned, but really is kind of out of it from a tools perspective? They're old school. So seasoned could be a seasoned old school agent, or a new agent. What advice would you give them to build their business?
Yeah, it's something we talk a lot about now that we've been a Corcoran affiliate for about a year, a little over a year,
Oh,
and we were a startup. So I came from another brokerage, and with my partner Nick and two assistants, and that was it. And so now we have a little over we have like 32 agents,
oh,
and
good.
yeah, but it's nice. It's boutique, which is important
Yes.
to us. And some are newer, and some are very
Mhm.
accomplished and settled. And when we do some business development and some coaching and thinking about our business and where the pipelines could be grown,
Right.
because it's all
Hmm.
about a healthy pipeline. Um, this to me is still a business where print still works with all this
Hmm.
technology. I think print is still important. And we've had a lot of engagement with the right type of print advertisements. Print is, you would think, because it's dying, right?
Hmm.
In these magazine publishers, it still is quite expensive. So you want to be
Yeah.
really thoughtful about your messaging there. And then we're doing an awful lot of digital sphere of influence, social media, in a very organic way, which I think is critical,
So
rather than being.
define that for our audience. What does that mean, organic, and who is creating it for you as well?
Yeah, that's a good question. We do all of our own personal social media, which your your introduction and what you said was really nice, and I like to hear that because I don't have a separate Brian Sells Boston
Right.
Instagram handle, right? And a lot of people do because they want
Yeah.
to divide church and state, but I've
Right.
allowed real estate's my life, and I have two beautiful boys, and I've got two enormous dogs, and we've got pretty houses, and so we but
Right.
it's our life, right? And so if you're allowed to get a snapshot, I think if it has relevance to you, you may think
Right.
of engaging and connecting, and that's what happens. But when I say organic, you know, um, I think that there are people that can be too salesy through Instagram and
Right.
uh, promote, open house hours and all the rest of that. And again, it's important, especially if you have a company or a team. But as you, the agent, I think that there's more of an audience who want to know about you, the person, or you, the family person, or you, the business
Right.
person. And um, so there's a way to do it just subconsciously without talking about how many kitchens and baths. It's just less is more. I guess
Right.
we subscribe in a big way to that. It's like
Right. No, I
sophistication
agree.
in simplicity, right?
Right. I mean, ever since I started real estate, it was always a lifestyle thing for me. Long before the word came, I've been doing this 35 years, and it's just part of who I am and what I do every day. And a little bit too long, my husband's always trying to take the computer
Turn you
from
off,
me.
yeah.
He's trying to, because I mean, there's so much to learn, and I think it's so fun.
That's
And I said there's three things real estate is: communication, creativity, and connectivity. And it's just fun to be able to
what are
create.
those again?
I just made them up the other day. I think I actually have four now: creativity,
Okay.
communication, creativity, communication, collaboration. Yeah, creativity, communication, and collaboration. I really believe in collaboration, and you always have to communicate, whether it's to the other agents or your colleagues or your family or friends or whatever. And then the creative part is super fun, where you get to be creative and do the marketing and all of that. But so when you when you said about your kids, again, I love kids. So when you said about, organically, and I share my family, and that's what I saw when I went on once to your Instagram, and I go, oh, they're so cute. And kids, I think you're playing in the water or something. It was like a weekend. And so it used to be really easy for me before my kids went to college and now are grown-ups. I used to post about them all the time. And if we were at a lacrosse
Yeah,
game or
yeah,
whatever. And
right.
then I got to a point where the kids said, stop posting us.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So now I
That's
have,
already
so then
it's
all of a
already
sudden I'm like,
happening with it. Yeah,
I
so we need
know,
content, right? What
right.
else is
And I'm
cute?
like, okay,
Your
now,
husband doesn't want to
like,
be this subject all
no,
the time.
exactly. And so, yeah, it became harder when the kids went off and grew up.
But like when you
So,
go to New York to visit your daughter and
yes,
you're there, right? And then
yes,
I think it's a
absolutely.
great platform to just remind the audience that, or, the audience, but people that take
Yeah,
the time to follow and show interest
right,
that you're in more than one place, right? And you're not
right,
so it's an opportunity to have a conversation. I think
right.
it's all about engagement. So if you
I
put
think
something
it's,
out
yeah,
there about an open house that's happening tomorrow in a town that's 3,000 miles away from you. Like, that's okay, but like,
right,
show me a beautiful shot of the kitchen and maybe just like something so that it prompts somebody to say, where is that? Or who is that designer? It's so beautiful. Because every time you do something, leave a little bit more. And then, you look at those messages and somebody's saying, oh my gosh, that's so pretty. Do you know that wallpaper? It's just a chance
right.
to engage, right?
Right. And also to
There's
educate. The other thing is to educate, right? We want to educate our
Yeah,
audience. So if you want to change a countertop, it's really not that hard. I show a before of a house and then you change the countertop to white, let's say, just because you're not going to go,
I
you're going to
love
be,
that. I
it's
I
just,
can just doom scroll like before and afters. I love that. I think other
yeah.
people do too, the before and afters,
Yeah. I
and
think
and
that's
how
really
impactful
important.
it could be, right? Yeah.
Right. And as you're flipping houses, so you know that. So let's jump over to AI. What sorts of tools are you using, and how are you using it, and what sort of prompts maybe are you giving it?
I'm not using it enough. I'm really not, and so I'm tuning into it. As a business leader, and we've got people that are more engaged with it or taking advantage of different resources and studying. There's a lot to learn,
There's
and
so much.
I did you read that book, The
Oh,
AI Driven
I
Leader?
haven't. My husband has it
Okay.
right now. He's about to read it, but no, I
Okay.
haven't.
All right. So I've started that recently. It just sat,
Okay.
we got this how many months ago, and it's just sat
Yes.
there as life has not really allowed time for. But this summer, I'm like, all right, I'm going to read a book. I'm going to read a book or two. And so I started reading that and getting into it, and it is about the prompts. And so I feel like
Right.
I'm taking that baby step, but it's tough.
It is.
I,
There's a lot,
I,
but it's
I
good.
don't, my personal business, because I'm a broker owner, so I work with clients and buyers and sellers, but fewer and fewer.
Hmm.
The price point or the engagement has grown for me in years past, and so in recent years, so I do fewer units, but maybe bigger prices, which is nice. It complements like a business owner and builder and a dad of two young boys. Like it works better than the old days when I used to just crank
Right.
out, and I've been there, by the way, like obviously,
Right.
and you're just working 8 days a week and, you're got 9 showings a day. And so I'm doing less of that. And so I
Right.
haven't felt that I've needed to automate anything. I haven't felt the need to automate anything in my like day to day personal brokerage world. But there's
Right.
so many tools. Yeah. I'm
Because
just
now you're
doing
overseeing
less.
your, yeah.
Yeah.
So now you're overseeing and working
But
with
for
your
my
agents.
agents, I want to make sure that they have the latest and greatest. And so we have some workshops planned for the fall. We're really going to tune into it. But I'd love to hear what it kind of excites you. I mean, I'll give you an example. I'm not even
Yeah.
using. We're getting ready to list a property, and you know what? It's been ready to list for like 2 days, and it's on me. I'm holding it up because my assistant John is like, let's go for the description. I was an English major in college, and I just really appreciate people who write well and who are articulate and who communicate well. And I just refuse to do the chat GPT descriptions or the co-pilot things. I'm not there yet.
You're
I'm
not,
like, that's, but the result is that it could take me days to write
Right.
a
It
thousand
does cut
character
down on.
description, right? So maybe I should give in a little bit, at least to get a base, and then refine it from there. But I'm holding on to that as an English major and somebody who enjoys writing to
Right.
communicate. Like, how can a computer talk about the special nuances of this,
Okay,
farm?
I'm going to give you some
Talk to
homework.
me. Okay.
Just try it. Just
Okay.
right. Actually, I want you to do it two ways. One, I want you to just prompt it, give it ChatGPT the basics of the property, just basics. Give it the basics and let it shoot it out. And even if you don't read it before you write yours, and then write yours just for fun, and then write yours. And then after you write yours, also put yours into ChatGPT and see what it does. And then you'll have three versions.
So, okay, interesting. So when I write mine and I put it into Chat GPT, what do I ask it to do? Just
You can just say, all you can say is clean up or rewrite.
okay,
You can say whatever you want, like,
okay,
you can say fine tune, and that's it. You
okay.
can say the word fine tune dot dot and then throw it in no such organization. It could be a run on all the way down.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's crazy. And then we have a lot of 3 bedroom, 2.5 bath houses with the yard near schools. Like, it's the same kind of thing that comes up. It might be bigger or smaller, but it's the same. So I'll say, 3 bedroom, 2.5 bath in Piedmont within close proximity to top rated schools. And then I'll add just a few other features of the house. And they come up with a really good description. It's
Really?
pretty, I want you to try it. I think
All
you might
right.
like it,
I
even as an
will.
English
Okay.
major, because I
Okay.
love to
Okay.
write. I
Yeah.
love to write. I mean, my prompts are, I just, every day I like to write. So I was going on someone else's podcast, and I didn't know what we were going to talk about. And I never do when I go on a podcast. So I was just write, oh, those 3 C's. And I wrote that, and I'm like, I can do a whole blog on those 3 C's, and I can do a whole
Right.
podcast on those 3 C's. So, okay, I want to go back just because so when I started this podcast, it was really about helping my 25-year-old self when I didn't know what I wanted to do. And
Hmm.
now that
Hmm.
I'm always coaching younger people, and we're part of 29 offices, I think, of Corcoran, and we have 80 agents under my husband, who's the broker of our 2 offices. And then I'm the marketing director and coach
Wow. I hadn't
and,
realized it's that large. My
and,
goodness.
and
Wow.
sell full time. Um, and always trying to
Right.
create, but I always love helping the younger or the newer agents, and not necessarily younger. So what are some things, because you're wearing your broker hat, what are some things you're going to be coaching with your agents, because you're trying to build your brand and there at your new office over the last year? What are you coaching them on? How are you telling them to build their business?
Yeah. We talk an awful lot. We workshop this. How to be thought of, right? This is a
Hmm.
business where if they don't think of you, they're going to think of somebody else, right? And this is just people that exist,
Right.
past clients, and even new clients. Like, why should somebody call you to support their needs when there are so many other people? And so we start there, then we go back and we think through it. And we did a lot of this in the spring, which you've heard of these SWOT analysis:
Yes.
strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. And it's really basic, and really the SWOT analysis was designed really for companies and business to business environments. But when you as a person do this exercise where you just take a piece of paper and you divide it into 4 quadrants, and strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, it's 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 a self-reflection that I think almost always ends up being thought-provoking for the person who does this exercise if they take it
Right.
seriously, right? And so,
Yeah.
what do you know that you're really good at? And so I'm attention to detail. I love design. I am a great communicator. I'm fun. I'm all these things you put it there, right? Opportunities are either opportunities for improvement or opportunities to be visible to an
Mhm.
audience, right? And so it's like, and I'm just making this up, but
Yeah.
I think an opportunity really would that nobody is focusing on waterfront condos. I'm just totally making this up, but
Right.
that's
Right.
you've done this assessment, and so that's an opportunity. We're going to come back to that, but like and detail a whole bunch of these things. Weaknesses is what a lot of people struggle with. This is like, I'm perfect. What do you? But yeah, so it's like, how do So that's when the real reflection and the magic can happen. Is like, well, I'm not confident. or what we got a lot of this spring working with our agents was, I'm uncomfortable promoting myself, which is
Mm-hmm.
interesting, right? Because this is a
Mm-hmm.
business that if it's reliant on self promotion, right? And you
Right. Right.
celebrating your wins. And if that's not, so how do we compensate for that? So you do all of that, and then threats are really like things kind of out of your control, but things that you should be aware of. It's the industry
Mm-hmm.
changes, it's more competition, it's the neighborhood is changing, just things along those lines that you should be mindful of. But it ends up being thought provoking. So what can you do to make sure that you're celebrating your strengths at every turn? And you're that's what you're posting about.
Right.
Not saying I'm so amazing at this. There's a way to do that, which is not obnoxious. But in your mailers or things or letters that you're putting out or magazine ads that you're thinking about running, how can you celebrate your strengths and then neutralize your weaknesses and turn your weaknesses into opportunities for improvement? If that makes any sense. So it's
Yeah.
such a basic exercise, but people
Right.
have really taken it to heart, and so on the person that doesn't like to promote themselves, well, then maybe you need to hire a social media content. There are plenty of people who will do that,
Right.
and they'll work for 5 hours a week on it, and charge you a retainer or something like that. But there's just so many ways that once you verbalize, and you look
Mm-hmm.
at it, and then you own these weaknesses, what can we do to turn them into a positive and turn them into that strength column so that you're a formidable force, so
Absolutely. No, I think that's really great. And what do you feel about so that's a
so
very great.
so
I
so
want to,
tan- so tangibly, right? So it's like,
yeah.
just to give you an example, and sorry if I cut you off, but I was just going to
No.
say, like, because people want to know, they're like, okay, this is great,
Yeah.
but one of our agents, she's lovely, she's amazing, she's gorgeous, she's been in the business probably 4-ish years.
Mm-hmm.
She's in a new neighborhood in Boston, right on the outside of Boston, and so that's new for her. And one of the opportunities was that she doesn't see any young moms really having representation. It's right now there are only like 2 or 3 um, older moms that are kind of have a lock on the market. And so she thought one of the opportunities she identified was to engage with and be relevant to the
Right.
demographic that seems to be moving in and out of there. And so, all right, well, that's great. So now what do we do? How do you reach these people? Is there a local magazine? Can you do a mail campaign? She said, well, you know what? There's a summer concert series that it's a free concert, and they're great people, and everybody comes with their strollers, and they're new moms, and it's just people are very excited, and it's like so well attended. And I said, awesome, tell me more. And so, can you sponsor the concert? That would be really cost prohibitive, right? And so I'll jump ahead, but what she did was she right across the street is this gelato place, right? And it's you have to walk by it to get to the venue, this park. And
Okay.
so she rented the gelato cart, and it was like she did a buyout for it, right?
Wow. Nice.
Compliments of Caroline. And so there was a guy with a hat, and he's scooping gelato. But what she realized in between concerts, because it was a whole summer series, the first time, huge hit. People loved it because it was free gelato, but there was no engagement, right? They would
Mm-hmm.
take her little cup, it was branded, and they throw it out. And
Right.
so we thought through that, and this is getting into like just basic guerrilla marketing. This isn't digital
Yeah.
ads on Facebook
Right.
or retargeted. And so what we did with our design team was we developed something. She said the line was like 2 blocks long. And
Oh my
she said,
gosh.
but it was awkward. I wasn't going to walk up to people randomly and just say, hi,
Right.
this is my thing, I'm sorry the line
Right.
is so long. So we designed a card that was like a giveaway. So everybody
Mhm.
who was there on one side, and then on the back it had her information and everything, but where's the chance for engagement? So while
Right.
people were waiting in line, she went to 3 local restaurants, shops, coffee places, whatever. And I think the trick with these types of giveaways things is that it has to be significant enough. It has to be what's in it for them, right? We
Right.
always,
Right.
when we put
Right.
marketing out there, it always has to answer that question with them. What's in it for me?
Right.
So if I'm reading an ad or I get a direct mail piece, like what's in it for me? And so if you have a $25 gift card to Starbucks or something, it's not going to do it, right? So I said, you got to invest, right? You
Yeah.
could buy a $5,000 magazine ad and you hope there's some engagement.
Right.
Or you got your $1,000 gelato cart that you already committed to. We're going to go to the print shop. We'll cover the design for you. And it was Caroline's summer giveaway, and with a QR code. And it was, I think it was like $300 to this great restaurant, $300 to here, $300. It could be 200, it could be
Wow.
whatever, but it was significant. It was like,
Yeah.
oh, right. And it was just, and there was some little blurb about being new to the community and meeting so many people, but at the end of the day, this really is a community. And, we wanted to do this in partnership with these local merchants to support them.
So everyone was giving, she was,
So as people were waiting in line for this amazing gelato that people were raving about, she gave out these cards that we designed. They were beautiful, but they were like this. She said, "Hi, I'm Caroline, and we're running this giveaway. I'm doing the gelato. I'm a local broker, and I live right around the corner. My husband will. But anyway, if you're interested, you just do this QR code and submit your thing, and we're going to do a drawing tomorrow,
oh,
and
a
it's all
drawing.
done."
Okay. I was like,
Right?
is she giving $300 to everyone?
No. And so people, so I had no idea. This was kind of my idea.
Yeah,
I had no idea how it was going
that's
to go, but
great.
it was something. And she called me that night at about 9 p.m. and she had already had 32 emails because the
Wow.
QR code, you scan it from your phone and it went right to an email that was pre-populated with Caroline's giveaway. And all they had to do was like leave their information. So
Oh my God.
right?
That's
And it's
great.
so basic. She was jazzed, and then they gave it away the next day. And so, but what she has now are the beginnings of a
Right.
relevant audience to then. And she's created this really fabulous monthly newsletter, and she's had several listings from it. So already,
Wow. Well,
because it
that
just was
now that's
engagement, right? So
tangible. That is
yeah.
tangible. That is incredible. That is really, wow. That's really
But the
wonderful.
question is like, how do we engage? So
Yes.
her heart was in the right spot. Her thought was great. Napkins, cups with her brand and
Right.
Corcoran, but they were getting thrown out. But then it was
Right.
engagement and make it important enough and it had nothing to do with real estate, right?
And it
That's the
was
key.
easy. And the best thing about it, it was easy because she was giving something. She said, hi, she introduced herself, but she said, you got, where it's for a drawing. So she had something
Yeah.
to say rather than, hi, I'm your local real estate agent. If you ever look to buy or sell,
Correct.
it was
Exactly.
something like, here, I'm going to give
Yeah.
you this and hopefully you'll win. And then people just, thought that was kind and they reached out and
Yeah.
subscribed. And now she has a pipeline of people that she didn't have before. It's about building the pipeline. And that was going to, well,
Yeah.
we should go to a quick commercial break because I
Okay.
never do. We're going to go to a quick commercial break. We'll be right back. And I want to continue on this conversation. Thank you. We'll
Okay.
be right back. Welcome back to Mastering the Art of Success. I'm your host, Debbie DiMaggio. We are here with Brian Dougherty. And thank you for that information. I think that was really, really good advice. I'm going to share that with Sydney because she's going to an event and we were putting together some little things for her, but to give out. But I think what you just shared is just amazing. So I think
It's
that
fun.
was really,
Yeah, think
really
outside the
great.
box. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. So now let's go on a little visual journey. I love to travel. I love to be in different places. I would travel every day if I could. So let's take us through Boston and Cape Cod and Martha's Vineyard. And if you go to Nantucket and all the wonderful areas that make up the greater Boston area, and tell us about the market and about who's moving there and maybe who's moving out and what it's like to live there.
Yeah, oh, definitely. I came here. Nick and I have been together almost 20 years, and we
Oh,
moved
wow.
out of New York after I came back from Jackson Hole in Las Vegas. I did a stint in Las Vegas for 12 long months, but I survived.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
Two
yeah,
days is long
that's a
enough.
whole nother podcast, exactly. But what happens there stays. But we came
Yeah.
back, and then we found ourselves. It was during the credit crunch, and the developers were having a tough time getting projects financed and out of the ground. And so I found myself consulting. This is before I went into general brokerage, which is what we do now, obviously. But when there just wasn't a lot of development specific sales and marketing opportunities. So I found myself consulting for a bit, and that was Nick was a set designer for a soap opera. So
Oh,
random, but
wow.
he was, and that was getting killed off the air after being on for like 100 years.
Wow.
It started on radio, and so we were going to be out of work around the same time because the agreement, my consulting wasn't getting extended, and so what does that say about me? I don't know, but it was a blessing because we concocted this crazy plan over a couple bottles of wine one night to do something that we like to do. Buy an old. We came up with this idea to buy an old inn on Cape Cod,
Oh, fun.
and leave New York and just kind of take a time out. And Nick had all of his design experience. I still had my hospitality bug, and so we did it. And we bought this historic place on the Cape in Chatham, which is at the elbow of Cape Cod. A lot of people say that the Cape looks like an arm, and so
Oh, right.
with P Town up top and down here, and that was just a chance for me to flex. So down at the elbow in Chatham, and so we restored an old inn and designed and decorated it and made it into this little boutique, this little jewel box, and we had that for 3 long years, and then built it up and sold it. But it was during that time that we, the inn was running. We had a small little team helping us, and we were on autopilot, but we needed to make more money, and so then we got licensed and hung our licenses with a local shop on the Cape, and that's when we really started to get excited about the property and the properties throughout the region. So we started on the Cape and then came into Boston and tied those
Okay.
markets together. A lot of people sometimes start in the city, much like
Right.
Corcoran did in
Yes.
Manhattan, and then went out to the second and third home summer house market. We kind of did the opposite, and so it gave us a warm start in Boston.
Hmm.
Some reliant relationships to draft off of, but we still had to start from scratch. So in Boston, since 2013, we've developed a nice business here in the historic, primarily in the historic, the older part of Boston, which is there are a number of neighborhoods that date to the 1800s or even before. The Back Bay, in particular, it's kind of the heart, the quintessential Boston. It was laid out by a French city planner, Parisian city planner. So it has these big boulevards and it's a grid system and these big wide sidewalks and beautiful brownstone townhomes, many of which have been converted into condominiums over the last 30, 40 years. So that's great. And then we've got Beacon Hill, which is really charming,
Uh-huh.
cobblestone streets and gas
Beautiful.
lanterns and just really beautiful photographs, quintessential New England, with flower boxes out front. Beacon Hill's not without its challenges. There's a lot of design limitations. And if you have old
Oh,
windows, you can't, touch those.
right.
And we have one client who, it took him 12 months to get their front door color approved
Wow.
because there's so much of that character preservation. And they wanted to do a
Right.
good color,
Oh,
but
it's
you know what I mean?
gorgeous
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
But for us, you could be 45 miles away in a weekend summer home market, Cape
Wow,
Cod,
that's close. I was
on the
going to
South
ask.
Shore. It is, right? And so,
Wow.
whereas a lot of people like in San Fran, I don't know, you've got to go to Tahoe, or you've got to go to the mountains, or you've got to go to Cabo, or where, I don't know. But
Yeah.
for weekend homes, or maybe you go up
45
north.
minutes. Yeah.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
fif- we're 50 minutes from Napa, so we're pretty close
Well,
to
that's
Napa,
good.
but
Yeah. But if people down in like Silicon Valley, like
oh yeah, it's
where do
further
they
for
go
sure.
to get, I don't know. So
Right.
so we tie those markets together, and we've built a nice practice. And it's what we found was, instead of just having the Cape Cod relationship, right,
Hmm.
now it's the same client, but we have
Right.
three opportunities to work with them. So we're in the city, we're in the suburbs, which is called Metro West. It's like Wellesley College is out there,
Okay.
West End, Brookline. There's some beautiful high-end communities, neighborhoods, suburbs. And then, so we've got that touch. What we find is
That's
maybe
awesome.
somebody who's raised their kids in the Wellesley is selling the big family home, and then they're going to
Hmm.
get a place in Boston. Maybe nothing too crazy. So now we'll sell the place in Wellesley. We'll support them with the purchase in Boston, and then maybe they're going to reshuffle the vacation or the Cape House. And so we
Right.
wind up with three touches of that one relationship, just because of the geography of this
Right.
market. Yeah.
That's amazing. And then do you go to Martha's Vineyard in Nantucket?
Just recently, I've long gone to Nantucket and have enjoyed that with friends and family. And Nantucket's a wild market. It's hot, and a lot of people recently have been drawing comparisons to St. Bart's. I mean, it's really chic and high end, and it's pretty programmed, if that makes any sense. Like,
Yes.
you get dressed up and you go to dinner and all the rest. It's a beautiful island. Only recently, the last 2 seasons, we've been doing quite a bit of work on Martha's Vineyard, and
Okay.
it's been fun for me. A colleague from another brokerage asked me to collaborate on a listing. She knew very little about coastal Massachusetts properties and how to market them, because there's a different approach to marketing. And so we
Right.
collaborated on one, and then it turned into two, and I think we're on our sixth or seventh deal together,
Wow.
and they're very significant. So we just 2 weeks ago closed on the highest property sale in the history of Martha's Vineyard,
Wow.
and the second highest in Massachusetts, which is interesting because it's all relative. It's a reminder
Right.
that these are in the upper almost 40 million, but like,
Wow.
that's a starter home in Miami, right? Like, it's just a reminder of how local real estate is, and it's
Oh,
all
so hyper local.
it's
Yeah.
all relative, right? But those are
Right.
big numbers, and so
Those are big
going
numbers.
going. So I'm not an on-island broker, but we are doing the most significant property representation there, um, and we're leveraging our connectivity to all these other markets, and your markets and these relationships to provide value to the clients. So we're having fun.
Right. Yeah, no, it's awesome. We stayed in Nantucket. I remember someone said, they asked, we went on a house tour and they said, do you live on island or where do you, something about on island or off island? And I was
Yeah.
like, at the time,
Huh?
I didn't know what they were talking about. Nantucket has their own language.
We're right. I know. And I never thought I'd be that guy, but it gets me when people that are local and they say, oh, they're looking at properties in Beacon Hill. It's on Beacon Hill. Beacon Hill, you know what I mean? It's just a
Right.
little thing,
Yes.
but
Yes.
it's a pet peeve. And so you're not
Right.
looking in Nantucket, you're looking on
On,
Nantucket,
yeah.
because you're on an island, right? You're on it.
Yeah.
But the
Tell
vineyard
people
is,
the differences between, because people
yeah,
might not know the differences
yeah.
between Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard. I went to both and I have my opinions about, how I feel, but share what the difference is.
Yeah, by the way, I think it's I don't know, I should know how many nautical miles like between the western edge of Nantucket and the eastern
I
side of Martha's
I
Vineyard.
did take,
They're very close.
oh, very
Did you
close.
take a ferry?
We rode the bike from the house and then we got on the ferry and went over there for the day when we were staying in
Yeah,
Martha's Vineyard just to go over.
yeah,
Yeah. It was easy. It
yeah.
was fun.
But they have very different vibes in
Very.
very different vibes. And so I found myself, at the risk of being controversial, uh, but I more drawn to the vibe of the vineyard lately. And I tell you what the difference is, everything's very
Right.
relaxed, very
Right.
chill. I've met more billionaires in the last 2 years through some of these more significant property representations, but you'd never know it. They're in flip-flops and they're driving an old Jeep Wrangler, and it all
Right.
just kind of comes out in the wash there in the vineyard. Um,
Right.
the other part of it's a larger island,
Yeah.
ever
Much
so slightly,
larger.
probably like, maybe
Seems
25-30% physically larger. And then the population is large too. There's more diversity on the island. And a lot of people
right.
like that. There's
Yeah.
diversity in housing stock,
Hmm.
in feel see, Nantucket is one town
One
of
thing.
Nantucket, and it's one
Yeah.
main street, and it's one dozen restaurants that everybody has to fight to get into. On the vineyard, there are 5 different, villages. There's Edgartown, which is the closest to Nantucket in terms of style and charm. I mean, they're
Right.
both uber charming and beautiful. And then there's Oak Bluffs. It could be a little bit more touristy. Vineyard Haven, where people come off the boats and they go straight to the bars, or maybe they'll grab a tattoo while they're at it. But they're beautiful. But do you know
Right.
what I mean? Like, there's
Yes.
just these different vibes and stuff, and it's great. And then there's 2 other areas: Upmarket, Chilmark, and Menemsha. And so anyway, I think there's something for everybody, and it's just a
Yes.
physically beautiful, pastoral, big agricultural community, like a working agricultural farming.
Yeah, right, right. It
Just
is. Yeah,
neat.
both are pretty, but yes, I would say I love St. Bart's, and so we've gone a couple times, and
Yes.
that's true. St. Bart's, and I could see Nantucket, but I would say the difference. I think Na- Nantucket is definitely more preppy, more conservative than St. Bart's, but they
Yeah.
do have those dress up, go to
Right.
lunch. I mean, you always are dressed up in Nantucket, or I
Did
mean,
you
that's
dance
where
on
I'm.
the tables in St. Bart's? Did you
I did
maybe?
not get on the
No?
table, no.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, you'll have to go back. We'll have to go together.
Yes,
Uh,
we will.
our
Nikki
9 month
Beach.
old Nikki Beach, he takes a
Yeah.
napkin and he swings it around. It's the cutest thing. And
Oh,
so
well,
that's what
I'll
I'm thinking
babysit
of.
and let you and Nick go out.
Oh, deal. That's
Now we're
great.
going for sure.
Yeah, 1000%.
Oh, I love it. We use the
Yeah.
Corcoran office, the Corcoran agents there to rent our houses. They're
Oh, is
really
that
great.
right? Oh, you do villa
Yeah,
rentals there? Oh, really
yeah,
good.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's really amazing. All
I've
right,
heard
we
it's the
have
number
to.
one
Oh, it's
spot to go to
amazing.
in the network.
I
Yeah.
love it so much. So we have to end. I'm so sad. So
Mm.
tell us, how do people get a hold of you? How do
If
they
it
come?
wasn't for that 2 hour bio of mine you had to read, I'm so sorry about that. I'm going to go right into edit mode when we're done with
You
this.
can just pop it in AI. I almost did, but
Yeah,
I didn't.
shorten this by an hour. I am Brian Dougherty, and I'm at Corcoran, and so you can Google me. My Instagram comes up there. It's just _ Brian Dougherty, which is really spelled Dougherty. The topic for another time, but Dougherty. And yeah, and everywhere in between. But I'm just Brian at Corcoran Advisors, and I love being connected with people and talking about my story and learning about theirs. So thanks
I
for
am so
having me on.
excited. Thank you for joining. Thank you so much. It was
It was a
really fun.
pleasure.
It was wonderful. I look forward to continuing the conversation.
See you soon for that babysitting.
Exactly. I'll
Yeah.
come. I'll come to Boston.
Yeah. Good. Thanks,
Thank you
Debbie.
so much. And that's a wrap.
Tune in each week for another episode of Mastering the Art of Success with host Debbie DiMaggio. Thursdays, 2 p.m. Eastern. Real stories, real strategies, real success.